Hello friends, welcome back. Today's picture panel is a view on Queen Street. I got right back to the exact same corner where this photo was taken. It's not really framed the same, I don't have a wide enough lens, and a lot of the trees have grown up, so we can't really make out any of the details on the building. We can see that the Sir John statue has been boxed up, but at least as of recording this video, it is still there. Before the Sir John statue was there was actually 2 cannons from the Crimean War. If we look at this front-on angle, though, we can make out a lot of the details of the building a lot better. In particular, we can make out that the large circular thing that I so confidently called a clock like 20 times in the last video is actually a giant window. There's a lot of big windows in this building. It's because of a cool new building material at the time called steel beams that allowed them to do a lot of this, so the architect had a bit of fun. I was, however, correct about calling this building and the entire Ontario government in general Queen's Park. And I have a tower-related excuse for why I don't recognize this one that I'll cover in the next video. Technically, the building itself is called the Ontario Legislature, and the park around it is Queen's Park, named after this queen. Many of the statues around the park are actually just leftovers or donations that the UK or India didn't want anymore, and this Queen Victoria statue is actually one such donation. The park has a lot of statues and knickknacks and so on lying all over the place, but none of them really caught my attention. I think that this outdated map of Canada or this maple tree will give you an idea of the caliber of thing that gets dumped in this park. These doors are where this Rush album cover was shot. From the U of T side, it looks pretty stately, I guess. The back doesn't really do it for me. It looks like it's been sunk into the ground to me just because of the way this entrance is designed, but that's actually the original design. One thing I do like is the Ontario coat of arms. Ontario actually uses a stylized version of this now that I like even more. I wish that the Canadian coat of arms had some more Canadian animals on it instead of this pretty lazy copy-paste job that has a unicorn. In the 1850s, the province didn't have its own capital legislative building, and the parliament kind of moved around from a location on Front Street, as well as other big cities in the province like Montreal and Quebec City. Province of Canada, Ontario wasn't a thing yet. Also during this confusion, the King of England got the Anglican Church to create King's College, which then became secular and transformed into the University of Toronto, which then leased this land for a period from 1859 to 2858 to the City of Toronto for $1 a year, with the intention of it being the location of the Parliament building for the Province of Toronto. Then on New Year's Eve, 1857, the Queen chose this random hamlet called Bytown nobody had heard of as the capital of Canada. Yeah, so that one's also a myth. The city of Ottawa, as it was known at the time, was chosen by Sir John to be the capital for a whole bunch of economic, political, logistic, and even military reasons. The federal government also already owned all of the land where the parliament would eventually go. But the whole zany queen chooses random logging town story is a lot more fun. Anyway, once they decided that Ottawa would be the capital of Canada, they did a confederation and invented 2 brand new provinces, and Toronto was formally made the capital of the Ontario one. Toronto had Queen's Park all ready to go for a parliament building actually, but nobody did anything with it for about 20 years. For quite a while, the Premier of Ontario was also an MP in the federal government, and then eventually Ontario got a Premier who was actually very anti-Canada and almost declared war on Manitoba, something the British supported weirdly. And this guy really wanted the province to be a totally autonomous and its own thing, and decided that Ontario really did need its own parliament building. There was a competition between 13 different architects, but the cheapest proposal came in at a pretty steep $600,000 in 1880 money, which is like $15 million today. and the Ontario legislature just kind of canceled the whole project. 5 years later, Richard White proposed building something pretty similar to this building for the low price of $750,000. And considering that was less than $600,000, the MPs greenlit it immediately. Obviously, White was lowballing when he said he could do it for $750,000. It actually ended up costing about $1.2 million in 1886 money, which is like $35 million today. The building is built in the same Richardsonian Romanesque style as City Hall, but frankly, it doesn't strike the same chords for me. It's made with the same pink stone from the Credit River Valley, though, which is kind of cool. The building worked great for about 20 years. They even put about 100,000 books and archives all into the Legislative Library / Smoking Lounge, which in 1909 burst into flames. The fire was reported at noon, but the fire brigade had to finish their lunch and then they got lost on their way, so the building was on fire for quite a while before they showed up. Luckily, though, MPPs thought quickly and managed to keep the fire completely outside of the actual legislative wing of the building by forming a fire retardant human chain. Despite their best efforts, nobody was actually injured in the fire. This corner of the building, though, was totally cooked. So they hired our friend E.J. Lennox to come and really bump up the building a few notches. He added another floor onto this side and added some windows and really kicked up the old asymmetry of the building, and that resulted in the building that we see in this photo here. So in the last video, we discussed how the lieutenant governor in 1937 was kicked out of his old house. Now the lieutenant governor's residence is this leftover apartment / dining room that they kind of spruced up with some of the unsold furniture from Chorley Park and slapped this label on, and this is now the lieutenant governor's residence. You even have to take these stairs to get up in. As far as I can tell, no lieutenant governor has actually lived here, though. So now we've learned a little bit more about Queen's Park, and next week I'll tell you all about a view in Queen's Park. Have a beautiful day.